We are talking here in Punta del Este at Uruguay at the Seed Congress of the Americas. I'm Aiden Brook, Business Development Manager with Seed World Group, and this is Scott Horner, there it is, co-CEO of HyTech Production. Scott, thanks for joining us. Would you mind giving us a little insight into yourself and HyTech Production?
You bet, Aiden, no problem. First off, I guess just really happy to be here and the big studio audience we have. I'm not sure if the noise is coming through, but we're on the SAA floor at the Seed Congress of the Americas, and it's a great event.
Yes.
So myself, I have been in the seed industry for going on 25 years now. I guess over 25 years if I do the count right. And started my career with Advanta Seeds. Worked in various positions with Advanta in sales and marketing, starting as a sales agronomist and finishing as a channel account manager. In 2001, I joined HyTech Production, company started by Brian McNaughton. I was the second employee Brian hired. And all these years later, now we're an organization with more than 50 staff. We operate in Canada and the United States and Chile. We provide independent seed production services to the global seed industry, and so I attend events like this to meet with our customers. Yeah. Hybrid canola is probably it's the biggest crop that we work with, and we produce seed in South America in the contra season. Yep. And in the US and in Canada, we produce seed for the Canadian market, obviously, but also Australia. South Africa, we're shipping seed to this year. It's a very international market, the seed trade. So hybrid canola seed production, big part of what we do. We also do production research. Yeah. And you were at our grand opening for a new seed treating facility not that long ago that we have in Lethbridge, Alberta.
Very impressive, very awesome facility too. That was a really cool time. I really enjoyed all that. It was always interesting for me because I'm used to being behind the computer and seeing pictures or videos or seeing it over Zoom or something. Yeah. So when I actually get to go see it, same thing with coming to a conference like this, being able to actually see it in person shows the scope and size of some of them. Like, it is mind-boggling. Like, it's not one of those things where it is a plug and play. There's a lot of thought and planning that goes into, I can only imagine. I don't even know all of it, but I can only imagine.
So much technology now going into seed, on the seed, in the seed, built in and around the seed to get it to market. Those facilities are amazing.
Speaking of facility, where's home for you, Scott? I know this, but
Coaldale, Alberta is where HyTech's located. I live in Lethbridge, Alberta.
I know you've not only been active in North American seed sector, but the South American sector as well. How did you get into the counter-season production?
My first trip to Chile for contra-season production was in 2001 when I joined Brian. I guess, Brian had been involved in contra-season production for many years prior to that. I guess it was initialized or initiated by our customers. I would say today we have very few customers who don't rely on the contra season in some way, shape, or form. Breeders, we do nurseries for a number of breeders in Chile, and so that helps them move their developments quicker to market. We do hybrid canola seed production in the contra season. So yeah, it was really our customers, I guess, that required that service, and we worked through some third parties initially, and we realized that if we were going to meet their expectations, meet their standards, meet our standards, we really needed to initiate operations ourselves, and so we started the business in Chile in 2006, and we've been there every year since, and in an increasing way in every year.
What's the biggest benefit you see the North American and more specifically Canadian seed sector gaining from counter-season production?
I guess I touched on it a little bit before in the previous question. It's the ability to get product to market, quicker. Whether it's breeders who are, using the counter season, the contra season to double their reps in a year, to double their capacity, by operating nurseries in the contra season so that they get 2 generations a year. They can move material through faster. So that really helps get new technology into the market, into the hands of farmers quicker. Or as a recovery for shortfalls that happen in the Northern Hemisphere in Canada. This past year, we had a pretty good production year in southern Alberta, where we produced the majority of our hybrid canola seed. Yields are on target. But the year prior to that, the heat we had in our production regions in the U.S. and in Canada, yields were down 15 to 40%. So chili counter-season production all of a sudden became very important in order for us, our customers, to meet the demand that they had for seed.
Since 2006, how often does the counter-season replenish, or what is the way I want to say this question? The question is more so, I'm curious, like the percentage that it covers for bad season in Canada.
Yeah, it's a good question. That's a really good question. It varies. Some organizations will use contra-season production purely as a top-up.
Yeah.
So if they're short, they'll go and they'll produce a couple hundred tons and bring it back, and that allows them to maintain their market share. Other companies will look at chili contra-season production as inventory management. They will go there every year with X percent of the program, regardless of what the production season might have been like in southern Alberta. Yeah. But overall, I would make a guess that we're somewhere in the range of 15% of Canadian canola demand annually is produced in the contra season, 10 to 15%. Not a huge percentage, but a meaningful percentage.
Well, I was going to say 10, 15%. That's 10, 15% you don't have if you don't have the counter.
Yeah, that's the difference.
That's fair. How did you identify chili as being the spot for HyTech's counter season production? Because I know you said that you started and that was your first trip down there where he already had the conversation or the relationship, I guess.
Yeah.
But how did, I guess, he identify, or you as a team?
Yeah. So even after I joined, we were still doing some production in Australia, New Zealand, California. Okay. Those were the areas where we had prior experience, and where for many years we had contra season production for different reasons before chili became really mainstream. And each of those areas, well, all 4 of those areas have one thing in common, and it's clear and transparent regulations. Okay. Low level of corruption. So clear business rules, but clear and transparent regulatory framework for importing seed, exporting seed, seed certification. So all 4 of those regions have that in common. California, we quit doing seed production in California because delivery back to the market for planting was too late. It just was inconsistent, and it came too late. Australia was a long way away. Costs were high. Timing wasn't great. So we moved out of Australia. New Zealand, maintained a non-GMO status. So canola crop went mostly GMO, and so that kind of eliminated New Zealand from the pool. And Chile has now taken the lead as far as the Southern Hemisphere seed provider to the Northern Hemisphere, whether it's Europe or North America. And they've done a fantastic job of building a system that's reliable.
That's very interesting. It's interesting to hear that the clarity is one of the big points for doing it, is that it's just being clear.
And reliable. Yeah. Predictable.
Predictable. There you go. Being able to be predictable. Otherwise, counter seasons aren't as useful as you want them to be.
Wow. So much of what we do is unpredictable. Mother Nature just keeps throwing curveballs at us, and you don't know what's coming next. And so when you can control something, you have to control it. So
well said. Yeah. You'd think we'd have that Mother Nature figured out by now. We've been here for long enough. We should have it figured out. For sure. All right, last one for you. Actually, I guess I have 2. I think this is the best one. What are you hoping to see in the future when it comes to counter season production?
Well, that is a great question. That's a really good question. So, right now the plenary session is all about phytosanitary items, and contra season in the future. The biggest need we probably have, the biggest controllable challenge would be around regulatory system. So, just like in Canada, where we're talking about seed regulatory modernization, in Chile in the contra season and globally, regulatory capacity is critical to our success. Annually, globally, there's over 1 million phytosanitary certificates issued. 1 million phytosanitary certificates issued to move seed internationally. And if you think about the time and the cost of issuing those certificates, they're physical certificates. They have to travel with the seed. Sometimes they get lost. Sometimes it takes days to receive the phyto. The challenges, the issues, they can be, really, really, I could say crippling, but that might be a bit of an overstatement. But they can be the difference between success and failure. And so there's a proposal now, an initiative to go to e-phytos. Some countries have gotten there already. Adoption of e-phytos to remove the human element and make things digital and travel faster will be a big step. The other thing we're talking about is systems approach.
Okay.
So the systems approach is an initiative that ISF is really leading, but SAA is involved in it. There's pilots going on. And the systems approach is really recognizing the systems that companies already have in place, quality management systems for controlling seed, for making sure that the seed we produce is pure, it has no weeds or insect diseases. And accrediting the company as an authorized shipper instead of accrediting every shipment. So instead of looking at it on a shipment by shipment basis, every 1 million shipments that have to be dealt with and controlled individually, an individual company, HyTech Production, would get accredited because our systems have been authorized, our systems have been recognized to produce pure seed, to ship pure seed with no phytosanitary issues. And so that's kind of the holy grail that will really help move seed faster, reduce cost. And so, things like that within the regulatory scope are going to be really important. And that's, I guess, what we look forward to most in the future.
That's exciting.
Yeah.
Seems like it's a big thing, but it's an exciting thing.
Yeah, it's a huge thing. There's a YouTube video. There's 2 YouTube videos put out by ISF on systems approach. If you watch them, your initial thought is that is way too complicated. No one will ever go for it. But there's pilots going on right now. Chile's involved in a pilot with the US and Netherlands and Australia, looking at specific crops and specific companies. And so it is, getting traction. It's a bit of a paradigm shift, but it was just so hugely valuable for everybody, for regulators to reduce the burden on them. Because with gene editing, the amount of material that's coming into the regulatory scope, the amount of seed that's going to move, the development that's taking place, it's just exponential. And so, the capacity just isn't there today, let alone in the future.
The efficiency
we need to build these tools in.
Fair enough. What's a question you get asked regularly about HyTech or yourself? What's something that you get asked on a regular basis that you find is it either a curious question or a confusion question that you think would be useful to?
Yeah, that's a really good question. That's not something I've considered.
The thing, is a totally new question.
Yeah, the thing that's maybe a little unique that sometimes we talk about is the fact that we're an independent company. We operate in many different countries. We're really entrepreneurial, and we're a bunch of pioneers who aren't afraid to go and do different things. And we've got great relationships with our customers. And but all of our customers are competitors with each other. So people sometimes ask, hey, how does that work? Like, how can you work for these different companies who are clearly competitors? And it's all about respecting the relationship and understanding the sensitivities and ensuring that we earn a high degree of trust in everything we do. Yep. And I guess that's something maybe that's a little bit unique about our business in the seed supply chain versus many of the other private or public seed companies.
Well, thanks for taking the time, Scott. This is fantastic.
Yeah.
And hopefully see you back in Alberta.
Absolutely, Aiden. Thanks a lot.